Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. I am the Knitting Equestrian Nomad, and this is episode 8. I am recording on July 16th, which is a Saturday, and this episode should come out probably on Monday, I'm guessing. So, my name's Karina, and I live in Western Washington State with my partner, our 2 kitties, and my 2 horses. Welcome, everyone. I keep looking over at my notes so you get a good look at the left side of my face, but maybe I can put this over here a little bit better. So again, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. I'm glad to see you, and I hope you enjoy my program today. For new viewers, this podcast is primarily about my knitting projects, gardening, and cooking inspiration I get from gardening, and my horsemanship journey with my 2 horses, Odin and Bragi, the Mustangs. Mustangs I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program. So I will try to remember to put a link in the show notes about that program. So in short, there are the Bureau of Land Management manages a lot of land that has wild horses on it, or feral horses, whichever you want to call them. And occasionally they have to take them off the range because it gets overgrazed, and they are a multi-use agency, so they need to balance not only for wildlife and wild horses, but also for other, I guess, profit type activities such as mining and ranching and et cetera, et cetera. So there's more information based on that, but the long and the short of it is that there are a number of horses that are gathered each year and then adopted out to suitable households, and I am a suitable household apparently because I have 2 now. It's been a couple weeks since I recorded last. I took a short camping trip with a friend from college, and we went to some lovely local campgrounds near some of the beaches that are nearby, and it was wonderful. The weather was wonderful. The weather was perfect. It was beautiful, sunny, but not too hot. So the other thing is I got to visit a couple boutique yarn stores that I had not been to before. So that was really fun, and there will be stash enhancement in this episode. My normal knitting goals are to knit down my stash and not have too much stash enhancement, but I do buy yarn when I am traveling, and this was a great opportunity. We've had about a week of summer so far. Summer arrived late in our part of the world. Today is cloudy, but it's fine. It's perfect for showing this sweater that I just finished, that I will talk about here in a minute. So stand by for that. I'll talk more about camping too as I work through this episode. So. But on to the knitting. We have a kitty coming to visit, one of the 2 kitties that lives with us. So they just turned 2 years old, or they're either this month or this summer sometime they'll be 2 years old. So they're still sweet, fun boys. So this sweater that I am wearing, I just finished it today, and I will stand up so I can show you. This is just a basic raglan sweater, so top down. I started it in mid-May and just finished it this morning. So the wool, or the yarn, it's not wool, it's 20% wool. It's DK Cake in the Forever Young colorway, and I used 3 skeins or 3 cakes of yarn, so I think it was about, it wasn't quite 1,000 yards. So the pattern is by Knitting Fool. It's kind of a do-it-yourself raglan pattern that you just figure out your what the dimensions of the sweater is, and then how many stitches for each part of it. So like where to divide for the sleeves, and I did 3/4 length sleeves, which is fine, especially for this time of year, which, you know, ordinarily normal summer weather might be a little too warm even for that, but today's perfect. Let's see, this is self-striping yarn. It's 20, I think I said it's 20% wool and 80% acrylic. So while I'm a huge fan of wool, occasionally, especially when I first started buying yarn for projects, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the content. So, but anyway, I expect to wear this sweater quite a bit this fall. So, yeah, if you followed along, you'll know that I thought I was going to play a little bit of yarn chicken with the sleeves, which is how I ended up with 3/4 length sleeves. I did end up with some extra yarn, about 12 grams, so not quite a mini size, maybe a half of a mini, but it might be enough to make some sock cuffs and heels, perhaps. So, anyway, so new finished project, which means that I have empty needles and an empty bag that needs a new project. I didn't bring up the other projects that I'm working on because I've showed them in previous episodes, but I'm still working on the songbird mittens. I haven't worked on them too much. Once I realized how close I was getting to finishing this sweater, I actually became a monogamous knitter and just worked on this project. In fact, I took this project camping and worked on the sleeves when I had a moment of sitting down and not wandering around on the beach. So songbird mittens, and I'm also working on the Arne and Carlos Colorwork squares that can be turned into a blanket. I think I'm going to play with the idea of turning those squares into a sweater, though. I think the work is nice enough that, you know, if I want other people to see it, it'll have to be something that I wear, because blankets, I don't think people really get to see your blankets too much typically. So that is my plan. So hopefully I'll start working on the songbird mittens too, so I'll have some substantial progress that I'll be able to show you in an upcoming episode. So, new cast on. So I started, and this is stash yarn. This is yarn I bought in New Hampshire last fall or last summer. And this is a Japanese style yarn. So here is the skein. So it's kind of a purple and light neutral color. It's called Kumo. It's by Neuro, The World of Nature, made in Japan. It is made of viscose, which I looked it up, and that is apparently a kind of a wood pulp type material. I love the idea of using sustainable materials and recycled materials. It's a whole part of my ethic in terms of gardening, in terms of, adopting animals rather than breeding or going to, somebody who has a specific breed of cat or specific breed of horse. So I'm really, I would have to say that recycling and conservation is a big part of what drives me in many ways, and sustainability. So all that to say, I love the idea of a yarn fiber that's made out of this. I'm not sure how sustainable or non-toxic the process is, so I'd like to look into that a little bit more. But nevertheless, this is the yarn that I have. It's also cotton, silk, and about 12% wool. So lots of materials, and it's very soft. It feels like cotton to me. So yeah, so I bought a bunch of this yarn at a yarn store in New Hampshire last summer with the idea of making a sweater from a Rowan magazine that I have. from 2006, but I decided to not do that. I thought the sweater was too fussy. So instead, what I have cast on is a Barocco pattern, and this is a paid pattern, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but it's from their Barocco portfolio number 7. The pattern is their Adeline pattern, so it's this t-shirt with a lace design. So there's the photo of it with the name of it, and then you can see Barocco volume 7 on here. So just cast on. I'm just working on, this is knit in from the bottom up in pieces, so I'm just working on the ribbing. So the needles are, these were my grandmother's needles actually. Where's the other one? So here it is. So just, you know, ribbing, blah de blah, and then here is the you know, this is a metal needle set of needles that my grandmother had, and here are the needles that will be used for the body, which is, like most patterns, the ribbing is smaller. You use smaller needles than you do the body. So here we go. So since I'm just knitting back and forth, I thought these long straight ones would be great. So, and it's fun to use stuff, you know, from relatives or your friends, but in particular relatives. I mean, the reason why I started knitting was for my grandmother. She was an avid knitter, and she made a lot of washcloths and socks and a sweater. In one of the episodes I did, I wore one of the sweaters that she knit, a cable knit, a fisherman's cable sweater that she knit, oh gosh, probably 30 years ago. So I wore that. But the reason why I started knitting, I crocheted as a kid, and then started knitting. It just seemed like there was a lot more flexibility and with knitting, and I could make a lot more wearable things, very stylish wearable things. Not that I'm a particularly stylish person, but you know, I have a style, I guess. But knitting was something I could do with my grandmother in her later years when, you know, I could just sit with her and knit, and that was something that we shared. So she passed away in 2013, so it's been quite a long time since I've had her, but it's, you know, using her needles and then continuing to knit really keeps her memory alive to me. So that's special. So, stash enhancement. This is really fun. So, there is a yarn store on Whidbey Island here in Western Washington that is called Skein and Tipple. So, the skein is obviously the yarn part. It's hand-dyed yarn. In the back of the yarn store is the tipple part, the cocktail bar. So very small place, but fun. So I just want to show you the sock kit I bought. So Salt and Color hand-dyed yarn. I can show this. So this is a superwash merino and nylon. It's a high twist sock plus a mini. Let's see if it has the colorway on here. Needle, weight, length, gauge, fiber. It doesn't, but you know, she may not name her color. She hand dyes in small batches. So anyway, this will be a nice pair of socks eventually. And then the really fun stuff. So this yarn is this is an organic merino. 437 yards, 100 grams, fingering weight yarn, hand dyed. So you can see the color. So yeah, this pretty kind of, it looks blue in the camera, but it's a little bit more green, and then it has the brown in it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to knit the Love Notes by Tin Can. And what you do, the Love Notes pattern is fingering plus mohair. So these are the two colors I picked. I was originally going for a more kind of the green color of the mohair, but she didn't have enough skein, so we found this that matches the brown. So I'm really looking forward to knitting this up. Yeah, this is 72% kid mohair and 28% silk. So 459 yards versus 437 yards. 50 grams versus 100 grams. So I'm really looking forward to knitting these up. And it only takes apparently a total of 4 skeins. So I'm super excited about that. So here's this skein, the mohair, very pretty. And very pretty. Skein and tipple. We were there too early to enjoy a tipple, but it looks like a fun little cocktail bar too. There's only about, I don't know, 10 to 15 tables in there, so it's like a fun place to spend some time. The other place that we went while we were tootling around, like I said, we were camping near the beach, is this Fidalgo, I think it's Fidalgo Fun yarn, more hand-dyed yarn, and what, oh, here is the label, Fidalgo Artisan Yarn and Clothing. So this is alpaca and wool. So I'm going to make a cowl from this. And the way this cowl works, this cowl is a free pattern from the Bakery Bears. So it is called the Owl Cowl, and I will show. So this is the base color, and then you get 6 minis, and I chose these for the minis. Let me see if I can see these. So yeah, kind of greens, and then with this as the base color. Very pretty, I think. So fun stuff. This colorway hand-dyed yarn is called Bonfire, and these don't have tags on them, so goodness knows what they are, but they're pretty. Yarn shop owner is really nice and helped me pick these out, so really grateful to that. So I encourage everyone, while you're traveling, go visit the local yarn stores. So here is the pattern, the Owl Cowl. And again, you can, this is a free pattern. You can go to the Bakery Bears and find it. So that's what the cowl looks like. You can see all the minis there that are knit. Each stripe, little stripe, is a mini. So looking forward to that too. All right. My computer just took a nap, so I need to go back and find my notes. So that is knitting. Yeah, not too many projects going on right now, but hopefully I'll show some substantial progress the next time that I record, which will likely be at the end of this month. So I've included the Skein and Tipple website and the Fidalgo Artisan Yarn Shop website in my notes. Gardening. What's going on with gardening? So the strawberries are done for now. I can get a few sweet ones occasionally, but a lot of them out there just don't have much flavor, so yeah, I'll leave them out there. Let the bunnies eat them, and maybe grow more strawberries for next year. The rhubarb is about done. I picked a bunch yesterday, so I think I'm going to make a rhubarb cake. It'll be like a coffee cake with a crumb topping. It's a new recipe to me. Hopefully I'll remember to put that in the description box. I'll link to that if you're interested. I also harvested, I got back from my camping trip yesterday before noon, and it was a nice day, so I did some gardening. I harvested all the feral garlic. I call it feral because a couple years ago I intentionally planted some cloves of garlic, and then the following spring I picked them And like always, you don't get every single clove. So those grew, and that was fine, except I didn't harvest and didn't harvest and didn't harvest. So everything that was left in the ground grew, and then all those bulbs grew more. So I had this kind of like massive patch of very close growing garlic. So I picked all of that out, and so now I have like a whole like table full of just very small cloves of garlic, or bulbs that are, might be the size of one large clove or a couple medium-sized cloves. So I may plant a few of those out there. I did leave 3 plants out there to go ahead and flower and produce seed, and I'll probably let those grow next year as well. So, but that's plenty of garlic for us. Let's see, I have planted hanging baskets of greens and lettuces and herbs, and the purpose of that is, the porch, those are hanging baskets off the porch, so it makes them convenient for kind of like a little kitchen garden that's very close by, and it's also a little bit shaded, so as we're getting into high summer, or at least I think we are, it's a nice place for those types of plants to grow. And we use a lot of greens and herbs and stuff. The tomatoes are doing well on the deck. It's very warm out there. So I have, I have 3 plants. One of them has flowers. 2 of them have tomatoes, so just waiting for those to ripen. And I also have potatoes out in the strawberry patch. I haven't seen them flower yet, and I also have potatoes in a potato sack. So it's a sack about yay big that you put your growing medium in, and I think you can there's room for 4 potatoes to grow. So those haven't flowered yet, so they're not ready, but hopefully soon. The cucumber and the zucchini appear to be doing well in the bag. Some of the other greens, not so much. So this has all been an experiment. I think every year my garden is an experiment. So, because I don't know, I just get new ideas and different ambition every year. So, I also grew some carrots that were supposed to be adapted to containers, but they were a little bit of a disappointment. I was kind of looking forward to harvesting them, thinking that I would get like these nice, like finger-sized carrots, but what I ended up getting, when I looked in the pot, there was, the top of the carrot kind of showing, but when I pulled it, it was literally like the size of the tip of my thumb with the greens. So I think those are going to go in the freezer in the soup stock bag, where I put vegetable cuttings and bones from chicken and steak that we've eaten. So we'll see. Maybe a little thinning those carrots, maybe it'll encourage some of the other ones to grow. We'll see. But that was a bit of a disappointment. Cooking projects, kind of made my standard supplies, yogurt and bread from sourdough. The bread, I refreshed my sourdough, and the bread turned out really wonderful. So highly recommend doing that once in a while. There's recipes online for what to do with your sourdough that you're going to throw out. I typically don't think of it, but I suppose you could add it to really anything you're baking that you might count it as part of the liquid. One of the liquid components, whether it's the oil or the water or milk, whatever it is that you use. So that might be a way to use it. I made a lot of snacks and salads for my camping trip. So I have this fun book from the Portland Picnic Society that I use to get inspiration from for, very portable, excellent meals. And so I made tuna salad. You could make egg salad. You can make devil's eggs if you like that sort of thing. I made they have lots of ideas for mason jar salads, so I made that, and I packed olives and cheese and bread and crudités, mostly sliced cucumber and bell pepper. So it was really tasty, and we ate, I would have to say, pretty healthy just from the cooler. Of course, there were some, ice cream stop on the way. I did have lunch at a deli one time, but it was actually really quite healthy. It was called a Vietnamese bowl that had quinoa and chicken and a wonderful peanut sauce and some lime and mung bean sprouts and other things that you would find on a Vietnamese style salad. Very tasty. Yeah. So, and today's cooking inspiration is going to be the rhubarb cake. The horses. I have quite a lot to talk about the horses today. So before I left for camping, I took Odin on a trail ride with a friend, and that was really fun. We had a good time. Didn't get lost, so that was awesome. I have a little video clip of that I'll add to the end of this. And I also took Odin on a 2.5 mile just hand walk. I was by myself, so I don't like to ride when I'm by myself. And Odin is really great. I could. He's a good horse, but very reliable. But I like to just take him on a walk because walking is good for both of us. So it's if there's surprises such as vehicles that are on the approach road to the trail or bicycles or something like that might surprise him. It's kind of nice to be on the ground when I'm by myself. And for Bragi, so we have also been working with, I've been continuing the 15-minute exercises in the morning. So I brought a tarp into the round pen, and Odin's very confident about it. He'll stand on it with all 4 feet and say, "Yay, look at me, look what I've done." And Bragi's still a little suspicious of it. He's a lot younger, so not as familiar with these kinds of exercises, but he will get 2 feet on it. So the point of these exercises are just confidence building, trust building, introducing them to things that are scary and helping them think through stuff like that aren't really a threat. I mean, if they're truly being threatened by something that might, endanger their life, then you certainly want them to have those skills to be able to flee. But a tarp is not a threat. So just teaching, but it's unfamiliar. I mean, where would a wild horse see a tarp? That's, really, and it also ends up being about body control too. It's like, can you put your front feet on? Can you take your front feet off? Can you put all 4 feet on? Can you back up away from the tarp? Can you move your hindquarters around it? So there's all sorts of things you can do with tools like these that really translate into possibly riding exercises or just groundwork exercises that helps build your trust with each other and confidence and also your safety. So that's always the number one thing, is that let's all be safe. And then I wanted to continue on talking about nomad. I've called myself the equestrian nomad for a long time, and then decided to add knitting to it because that's the other thing that I spend a lot of my free time at. And originally the equestrian nomad is because of the variety of horses I've had and the variety of disciplines that I have engaged in over the years. So this is part 4. So I started working on explaining the nomad part in June. So if you're interested, you can certainly go back to those show notes if you want to, or those episodes and show notes. So I left off last time talking about adopting a thoroughbred that had retired from the racetrack and really changed everything that I knew about horsemanship. So I started riding as a kid, and I guess as a kid you think that a horse is kind of a tool just for you to use, like maybe a bicycle. You don't realize they have thoughts and feelings of their own. And sometimes people can go through their whole horsemanship life thinking that they don't really, that they're so-called dumb animals. They don't really have thoughts and feelings of their own. But, over the years, and especially with this horse, I really learned a lot about their thoughts and feelings about things. Working with this particular horse in the traditional way would have ended up being very dangerous if I hadn't sought help from knowledgeable people who were used to very excitable, very sensitive horses. So if you think about it, a horse can feel a fly on their skin, so there's really no need to use harsh methods with them. If they can feel a fly, they can certainly feel, like maybe your stick, just tapping on them, asking them to move. No need to whack or smack or whip or anything else. If you end up doing that, then it's probably, your horse is probably shut down. So, it's something called learned helplessness. I don't really want to get into that so much, but that is something that I've learned over the years, starting with this horse. This horse is a 12-year-old bay gelding. His nickname was BG. The lady who owned him before, she said she was a fan of the Bee Gees. I also heard that BG, like the letters BG, was short for big guy, because he was a big horse. He was probably close to 1,500 pounds. So, anyway, his jockey club name was Winterproof. The first mistake I made with him was not having a veterinarian do a lameness exam. And the reason why I made that mistake is because the horse was free. So, and spending a few $100s to assess a free horse seems like it would be a very frugal choice at this time, rather than a cheap meaning, yes, you may have saved some money, but it probably didn't work out well, and that is true. The lady that owned him didn't ride, and she already had several horses that she had adopted and retired from the racetrack. And she wanted BG to go to a good home, and thought that he still had quite a lot of athletic ability and some life left in him in terms of, being able to be a good riding horse. So her intentions were good, and we're still friends to this day. If she had been a rider, I probably would have gotten a very different picture. And the reason why I say doing a lameness exam is frugal and not cheap is because keeping a non-riding horse that is lame is still expensive, because food and farrier and routine veterinary care is very expensive. So if you're a rider and you have a non-riding horse, that's fine, but then you want a riding horse. So then you have just doubled your expense. So I guess the question is, would a lameness exam have changed my mind? At this point, I don't know. That was 2015. That was the fall of 2015, 7 years ago. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'd like to think I would have been very objective about it, but like most people, I'm very emotional about animals and kind of fell in love. So who knows? So, with this idea that I was going to go back to a similar program that I had Clipper in, I was going to do some hunter-jumper stuff. I might do little local shows. But anyway, I was just going to have some fun with him. And I put Beej in training at that same barn where I had kept Clipper before I sold him. They take very good care of their horses. They have high-quality feed, excellent bedding in their stalls, very clean stalls, wonderful care. What they don't have is turnout options, so for horses to be able to go outside and not be in their stalls. So most of the horses in that place are in their stalls most of the time, and they come out for their training session or riding lesson or whatever. And a lot of horses do fine in that type of a program. Clipper did. He was fine being turned out for an hour every day if the weather was nice, and if he didn't get to go out, he was fine with that too. Beej wasn't. Beej was far more high-strung and sensitive, Training put a lot of pressure on him mentally. He had a tremendous amount of try in him, which is why I fell in love with him in the first place. But he needed confidence boosting exercises, and I didn't understand that at the time. And I think the training program I had him in didn't really start at the beginning either. They kind of started in the middle, where you get on. Whereas Beach really needed to start at the beginning and then move up from there as he gained confidence. So riding him was kind of like riding on a ticking time bomb, and it didn't take long for me to realize that it was really no fun for either of us. Beach was really stressed out. I was not enjoying riding, and frankly, I was losing a lot of my confidence riding also. So even though I hadn't fallen off yet, it's I'm not a spring chicken, and I don't bounce like I used to. So, with fear of falling off was weighed heavily on my mind. So the trainer was actually moving to another barn, and so it seemed like a good time to move Beach. It just worked out really well. I didn't have a place to keep him at the time, but a friend offered to board him as she had a mare that was going to be alone soon, because the horse that was boarded there was going to another location. The owner was moving or something and taking her horse with her, which is absolutely reasonable. So I thought it was a good idea because there was a barn with an arena that I could ride out about a mile down the road. And I still did not realize at the time where Beach was mentally or physically in his training. I was still thinking of him as a horse that had some training, that was rideable, that I could just get on and go to this barn and do some exercises that I knew, maybe work with a trainer there. There wasn't a resident trainer, but you could bring in a trainer, and that's kind of what I had planned to do, and still stay on this path of being on the hunter jumper. Well, it didn't work out that way. He was just a lot scarier to work with. I did not have the skill set to start him, do any exercises below, that's not a good word, that were more basic than just putting a saddle and bridle on and riding around. I thought that was basic, but there's a lot that goes on between training a horse to accept a saddle and bridle and riding. So, and that's what I was learning. So I really just kind of took some time off from him, any kind of training. I'd just come out and groom him during the winter. So, again, this was late fall. The weather window, there was no indoor place on the place. And, fall around here in winter especially can be quite rainy, so then the footing gets to be a problem. And, I don't really want to mess up their yard or their pastures or anything like that. So I would just come and groom and just try to bond with him. So I found a trainer through my farrier. Actually, I have a wonderful farrier who is a good horsewoman by her own right. And she referred me to this other young woman who was just starting her training business. She had worked for a dressage trainer for many, many years and then was going out on her own. And she was, her business model was traveling to people's barns who needed help training. So her name's Megan, and she introduced me to the rope halter and the long lead line that you see in a lot of natural horsemanship programs, and introduced me to some exercises that would engage his brain. So one thing we found out is that he overreacted to most requests. I mean, it was even the smallest request. It was just sort of like, oh my God, what do you want me to do? And Megan had a very soft approach. And she just really started by just kind of watching him and seeing how he interacted just to her presence. Was he paying attention to her, or was he, focused on something else? And once she learned the answers to that, she started, just asking him very simple questions. So is your attention on me? If your attention's not on me, I may not be safe with you here, because you might start running away from something and not realize I'm here. And that's not safe. That's not safe for either of us. Are you willing to engage? Once your attention is on me, hello, I'm here. Are you willing to engage with me? One of those things might be putting out your hand to see if they'll sniff it, or moving your body to see if they follow you, or seeing if you can maybe put a little pressure, not touching, but just like just kind of like tapping at the air near their hindquarters, see if they will. This is my imaginary stick. So seeing if they will move their hindquarters in response, or maybe they don't really. And it seems like a lot of horses just really naturally do that. And sometimes you might have to tap if they're just kind of stuck. You might have to tap, but again, as I said before, horses can feel a fly on their fur, so you don't need to really give them a hard whack or anything. So some of the other questions, can you back up? Can you walk with me? Can you stop with me? Can you turn with me? Can you turn away from me when I ask? And the big question is, how are we going to feel safe around each other? So this was a huge turning point for me. I had to really let go of my goals of doing this kind of showing that, or even doing hunter jumper training, until, I had even these basic things answered. Can you pay attention to me? Can you just walk with me when I'm on the ground? Like I said, well, that was the early 2016 when I found Megan. So that's been over 6 years now. And if you're with me, I talk about Odin, my Mustang, and I go on trail rides with him. So, the hunter jumper thing is kind of fallen by the wayside, as I'm a lot more interested in the relationship I have with my horses now. And I really do enjoy riding, but it's not the same focus as it was when I was younger. So I think I'm going to end this here, because we're at almost 43 minutes, and I've been rambling on a bit about it. But like I said, just getting to the closing bits, the video at the end that I'll tack on in the end is the beginning of an afternoon trail ride on Odin, so you'll see the person I was riding with, the back of her. I'll also talk about recent inspiration for horsemanship and knitting and gardening. I haven't watched too many horsemanship videos this week. Let me see what I have on my list. But one of my favorite knitting podcasts is Knit All the Yarn podcast. I pretty much watch whenever she releases an episode, and she does record weekly. I pretty much watch it. The Grocery Girls, they have very long episodes, but I really enjoy them. They're sisters, and they have a family grocery store business in Canada, so hence the Grocery Girls. But one of them's a yarn dyer, and anyway, very entertaining. Also knitting, Dan and Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. I really enjoy they're in Great Britain. The Grocery Girls are in Canada. Knit All the Yarns in Michigan. And then gardening, I like the Grow Veg podcast, and this is a gardening podcast in also in Great Britain. So similar climate to here, so I find that very useful. Where I can be found, again, YouTube, if you're watching this, you know where I am. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. Where I can also be found on Facebook under the Equestrian Nomad. Instagram, I am CMEQ Nomad, all one word. Ravelry, I'm Karina La, so Karina La. My blog is equestriannomad.net, and email is theequestriannomad@gmail.com. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.